So, how does a top-tier university, one that's been around for over 60 years, completely reinvent itself for the age of AI? Well, today we're going to break down the incredible story of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, or CUHK for short. And let me tell you, this is way more than just installing some new software. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how education actually works. To really get it, though, we need to rewind the clock a bit.
I want you to think back for a second to your university days. Do you remember those endless lines just to register for classes? Or filling out a paper form for literally every single request? Yeah, that slow, manual, one-size-fits-all experience, that's exactly where our story begins.
All right, so the university we're focusing on is the Chinese University of Hong Kong. It was established way back in 1963, and it's a global powerhouse, consistently ranked in the top 50 worldwide. But here's the thing. Even the best of the best feel the pressure to keep up with the times, and CUHK was definitely no exception.
And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? The core conflict. Before 2020, you had a university running on manual processes, tons of paper. After 2020, a complete pivot to an AI-driven, digital-first world that's all about personalizing the experience. The big question is, how on earth did they make that massive leap?
So, let's really paint a picture of what that before time was like. We're talking about a system that, well, it worked, sure, but it was incredibly labor-intensive, and let's be honest, just not built for the modern world.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how all these problems just piled on top of each other. Think about it. Enrollment forecasting was done by hand, which could lead to huge gaps in resources. Need help from student services? Get in line. And in the classroom, the teaching was pretty much the same for everyone, which made it tough to meet the needs of all the different students. It was a system that was seriously straining at the seams.
And then, bam, the catalyst. The 2020 pandemic didn't just cause a little disruption. It ripped the Band-Aid right off and exposed every single weakness in that old system. That sudden, forced shift to online learning made it painfully obvious that a change wasn't just a nice idea, it was absolutely urgent. So CUHK responded by going all in on AI for the long haul. Okay, so the university is facing this massive, urgent need to change. How did they pull it off? This brings us to the revolution itself. And CUHK didn't just dip their toes in the water, they wove AI into the very fabric of the university, focusing on the two things that matter most, administration and teaching.
On the admin side, the change was huge and systematic. Predictive analytics took over from manual forecasting. AI chatbots started answering common student questions 24/7. But here's the real game changer. Step 4. By automating all the boring, repetitive stuff, it freed up the human staff to focus on what they do best, high-level strategy and policy.
And the impact on students, well, it was absolutely profound. I mean, just look at this number. 86% of students are using these AI tools every single week. That's not some small pilot program. That is a massive cultural shift in how students are learning, and it's leading directly to them being more engaged and staying in school. So what is this AI actually doing in the classroom? We're talking about generative AI, and what it does is pretty amazing. It lets teachers finally move away from that one-size-fits-all model. Now they can create personalized learning paths, custom-made content, and even interactive quizzes designed specifically for each student. It's all about tailoring education on a massive scale.
And this wasn't some fuzzy, abstract idea. No, they implemented real, concrete tools. They ran workshops to get professors comfortable with the new tech. They rolled out virtual teaching assistants, adaptive learning platforms like EduVenture, and even AI-powered grading tools to save teachers a ton of time. This was a full-court press on bringing tech into the classroom.
All right, so they poured in the resources. They rolled out all these new tools. But did it actually work? Was it worth it? Let's take a look at the payoff, the hard data on their return on investment. First up, efficiency. A 40% reduction in administrative processing times. Now that's not just a number on a spreadsheet. Think about what that means. That represents thousands and thousands of hours of human potential that are now unlocked, letting staff focus on what really matters instead of getting buried under paperwork. And we see a very similar story with the students. There was a 30% jump in their use of AI tools. But what's key here is that this isn't just about students playing with new tech for fun. The data shows a direct link between using these tools and getting better learning outcomes. It's working.
The impact didn't just stay on campus, either. This intense focus on AI created this whole new ecosystem of innovation. We're talking over 20 startups born right out of the university, and they went on to secure a mind-blowing 200 million Hong Kong dollars in funding. That is a serious economic ripple effect. And the wins just keep on coming. You've got a 25% surge in students signing up for AI-related courses, which shows you how much demand there is. And get this, the university is projecting a long-term economic impact of $500 million Hong Kong dollars by 2030. Wow.
Okay, I know it all sounds pretty incredible, but it brings up a really critical question. Is this the perfect blueprint for every other university out there? Let's dig into the challenges, the risks, and the bigger picture, because it's not always so simple.
Of course, a change this massive doesn't happen without hitting some serious roadblocks. First off, you've got all this sensitive student data flying around. Protecting that has to be priority number one. Then, you have to worry about algorithmic bias, making sure the AI isn't accidentally creating new inequalities. And here's a tricky one. You have to find that perfect balance between giving students powerful AI tools and making sure they still develop their own critical thinking skills. These are tough, real-world problems that any school going down this path has to solve.
So, the big question, can this model just be copied and pasted somewhere else? Well, it's kind of a yes and no situation. Some parts? Absolutely. Things like training workshops for teachers or using analytics to be more efficient. Any university can do that. But other things were pretty unique to CUHK's situation. A ton of government funding, special partnerships, and just its sheer size and resources. Those things are not so easy to replicate.
And now leaves us with one last crucial question to chew on. What we've seen at CUHK is, without a doubt, impressive. But is this a real glimpse into the future of education for everyone? Or is it a super high-tech blueprint that's only really possible for the wealthiest, most well-resourced institutions? The answer to that is going to shape the future of learning for an entire generation.